What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB here today with the review for Power Book 2 Ghost. This is season number 1, episode 2. I don't know why it's season 1. And it's titled Exceeding Expectations. So, you guys, without further ado, let's get into this episode review, shall we? Alright, you guys, so let's jump into this episode review. So, the episode, it opens up, we see Tasha. So, Tasha is in one of the excuse me, y'all. She's in one of the interview rooms when Davis and his investigator come in. Her name is Paula, and they're talking to Tasha. And Tasha wants to know, why is this whole queen pin thing being pinned on her? And then she does confirm that Ghost was the one who was behind all of this stuff. And then she thinks that Simon was the one that was paying for Davis to be representing her, but nope, it's Tariq. So they ask her if she had anything to do with Ghost and Tommy's business. She says no, and I'm like, girl, you just continuing to lie to this man. I'm like, you do realize anything you say to him, it's confidential. He can't say it to anybody else, but okay. She's still running with this whole lie that Tommy killed that Tommy killed Ghost. I'm like, okay. Now, the thing that was bothering me throughout this whole thing was if Tommy killed Ghost, if y'all think he killed him, why aren't y'all trying to find him? That was bothering me. So then we see Tariq. So Tariq is back in his dorm room, and Tariq is counting up the money, and Dante comes in, and Tariq is like, damn, dude, like, how you keep coming up with these new clothes and stuff? I thought college players couldn't make any money. He says that, his aunt Monet takes care of him as long as he's doing what he needs to do at school. So then, he says that he has to go out to Monet's house and pick something up. So Tariq says, well, can I come with you for dinner? He says, let me ask her and then I'll let you know. He says, but he's getting ready to go meet Professor Milgram. So Tariq gives him the paper that he's done for him. He says, you might want to read this in case she has any questions. So then we see Tariq, he goes into the class. Now we see brown skin Keisha. Well, her character name is Brushandria. So there's this little white girl in the class, and she's talking about the book. And brown skin Keisha, Brushandria, she is talking about the fact of basically how, white people take credit for the stuff that black people do. And then we meet Richard, who is a brown noser, and you can't believe that he's actually black. He's one of those black people. So then Tariq comes into the class, and Jabari asks Tariq about the book. Tariq, we all know that he can bullshit his way out of anything, but then Jabari tells the class not to go easy on him. So little Miss Lauren, she asks him a question about the book, and that's when Tariq has to reveal that he never finished that book. This is the second time that this has happened, and Jabari at this point is frustrated, you guys. Let's move on. All right, so Davis. Davis is with Tasha. He tells her that they think that she ran a drug business, and he says, actually, Davis texts Tariq, so Tariq is meeting with Davis, and Davis is telling him that they think that Tasha ran a drug business, and Tariq is like, she didn't run a drug business, that was on my dad, and Davis is like, well, that's exactly what she said. So Davis says that, when it comes down to Tariq and Tasha, he's not sure what to believe, because they keep leaving out so much shit with him. And I'm like, at this point, Davis, I would just say fuck both of them, honestly. And then, Tariq says that Sax is involved in this. He has a personal involvement with this. So Davis says, you know what, I'll continue to work the political angle. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to eulogize your dad, but I want you to paint him out as, this dangerous, violent person. And I'm like, damn. But this is all to protect Tasha. So then back at, what's the name of this? Stansfield. So, Braden catches up with Tariq. And, he said he's been reaching out to Tariq, but Tariq hasn't been responding to him. So he asked Tariq, do you want me to come to the funeral? Tariq says, fuck no. And, they were talking, Braden was talking about the fact that they met at the strip club. And he noticed him talking to Epiphany. And he asked, Tariq, is she moving weight for you? Tariq says no. And Braden like, well, you was making a lot of money out there at Choke with that. Like, if you doing it again, like, I want in on it. Tariq says it's nothing like that. So then Tariq gets a text from Stern saying that he's on campus and he wants to meet him. And then he also got a text from Zeke saying that, Monet said it's cool for him to come. So then we see a scene with Monet. So Monet is in bed with her fuck buddy, and he wants to be there for Monet. And Monet was like, when it came down to Lorenzo was still able to protect me even from, behind bars. So then we realize that Ramirez, the guy that she's with, he is a cop. I'm like, oh, so that's why she was so close up on him in last week's episode. Monet is sleeping with the enemy. And she tells him that he has to go because Kane nor Drew nor Diana can find out. So then we see Zeke. He's meeting Professor Milgram, and Professor Milgram is talking to him about his paper that he did. Technically, the paper that Tariq did. I thought that Professor Milgram was trying to catch him up and see if he actually did it. And we realize he's on academic probation, so he has to meet with her. So Zeke is flirting hard as fuck with, Professor Milgram. Now, there is something off about Milgram. I can't put my finger on it because it's just weird. It's like she has an obsessive personality. Because she asked him about Tariq, she said talking about his biology test that's coming up and the fact that Tariq is, tutoring him. And then he talks about the fact that Tariq is going to, his dad's funeral. And she says, well, are you going? He says, no. And then she sends Tariq an email once Zeke leaves, telling her, to come see her as soon as he can. I was like, there's something off about Professor Milgram. So then we see Tariq. So Tariq is with Simon. And, Tariq wants to know what Simon wants. And Simon says that, he got a distressing call from Davis. And yeah, Tariq says, yeah, what he wants me to do is he wants me to, eulogize my dad and talk bad about him. And Simon says, that's not such a good idea. Like, telling the truth about your dad could hurt you guys financially, which I don't understand how that can hurt them financially, but oh yeah, I guess I do see how they hurt them financially. The feds could take all that money because it's drug money. So yeah, I guess so. Cool. Let's move on. All right, you guys. So next, Paula and Davis, they're talking, and she's talking about this case with Tariq and Tasha. She's telling Davis that he should just let this case go, which I agree with her, because both Tasha and Tariq are lying to Davis at this point. So he says, well, you did some research into them. Do you think she's a queen pin? And, he mentions that they both say that Ghost was the boss and that Saxe knows it, which that's true. But no one can prove that is the problem. So then we see Saxe, he's talking to Mock and he's talking to Steve. And they're saying that Tasha was a leader. And Saxe is saying it, but, there's no proof of that. And they said, well, exactly. So that means that Davis can't prove that as well. So then we see that Davis wants to argue he wants to argue in front of a judge about this situation. He wants to argue that she didn't know anything, but that's really impossible to say that she didn't know anything because, we all know that she knew everything about the business. We all know she sold drugs from the daycare. So that's not going to work. And then with her name being on checks and stuff, she cleaned the money. She helped with Lakeisha cleaning the money. So yeah, that's not going to work. So then David says, well, how about we go after Saxe to prove that this is political? So he wants to put the girl that gave Tasha the deal on the stand. So then we do see Tariq. So Tariq goes to visit Tasha. And she says, because he's talking about the fact that they want him to give the eulogy about James. And she says, well, maybe you should protect him. He says, no. He was about to say forget Ghost's money, but he says forget Dad's money. And he's going to protect Tasha. So she asks him, so what do you want to do? Do you want to speak at the funeral? He says he doesn't necessarily know. And she asked him, did he open up the daycare once again? Because, the daycare is a front for the drugs. And he says no, but Tasha knows otherwise. Because she's about to ask him, well, how did you get the... And she stopped herself before she asked him, how did he get the money? So then we see Saxe. So Saxe is talking to Agent Garza. So he wants him to be his lead investigator on this case with Tasha. And he's telling Sax, hell to the no. Like, you got so much shit around you. You were fired. They were about to arrest you, and now you got this cushy job. Yeah, you've done something illegal, and I want no parts of it. But then he mentions Davis's name, and when he mentioned Davis's name, he said, "Oh, he's on it." I'm like, that's all it took was for him to mention Davis McLean. I mean, I would not want to work with Sax on anything at all. The man is crooked. But I mean, hey, I guess money talks. I just wouldn't be on board. But let's move on. All right, you guys. And then next, so we saw Professor Milgram. So she was talking to Tariq, and she's telling him that it's okay that he's struggling in his classes because of what he's been going through with his dad and his mom. And she tells him that if you want to sit down and have a talk if you want to sit down and talk, I'm here to talk. Now, when she was talking to him, I got a weird vibe from that. It just kind of came off, like I said before, obsessive, very obsessive. But he tells him, nah, he's all good. So then he got a text from Zeke. I forgot what the text message said. So then we see her name is Carrie Milgram. So she went to talk to Jabari, and she says that Tariq is not processing his feelings for his dad. I mean, what do you expect the boy to do? Just bust out crying at the drop of a dime? That's weird. She's weird. So then she tells Jabari that she's going to be having a vigil for him. I'm like, if the boy said he doesn't want to deal with this, if he's not ready to deal with it, why would you have a vigil? That was weird to me. So then those two get into an argument about their relationship because I guess Jabari wrote a book about her or him or both of them. I don't know. Then, we see them and they get it in with each other. And then after they have sex, we see that, Professor Milgram is talking to someone about Jabari and her having sex. And then, she's talking about the fact that they still have a connection with one another. We find out that this is her sponsor. So obviously she's addicted to love or sex or both. And the sponsor tells her, don't be alone with him. Don't be alone with him in a room by yourself or with the door closed. So yeah, she had a sex addiction or a love addiction. Could be both. So then we do see Tariq. So Tariq is having dinner with, Zeke and his family. So then their Uncle Frank shows up and he was hella fucking weird. Because he looked at Diana and he was talking about, oh, you really filled out. I'm like, that is your fucking niece. And he's talking about how she's filled out. Ew. Now, Monet, however, is wondering how the fuck did you get out? Because you didn't get out for good behavior, so obviously you dropped a dime on somebody. But he said that, Lorenzo told him to meet up with her. She said that is bullshit. So then she tells Diana, you need to go clean up these dishes. Zeke, take Tariq back to school. And Drew, you go and talk to Frank and, try to work things out with him. So then we see, Kane, he's taking Tariq back to school. And he told Tariq, like, yo, we need to have a conversation. And he told Tariq, like, whatever happens in our house stays in the house. And Tariq was like, you ain't got to try to scare me. I ain't gonna say shit. And, he says, well, nigga, I don't know you. And Tariq was like, but your uncle, he's a snitch. He's a rat. And, I'm like, exactly. Kane knows that as well. So then Kane goes back to Monet and he tells her that, with Tariq, they ain't got nothing to worry about. That, did I get ahead of myself? I think I might have got ahead of myself just a little bit. We'll pause right there. All right, you guys. So Tariq makes it back to, school. And that's where he sees that damn vigil. I'm just sitting here like, this is the weirdest shit. You got people over there taking selfies with the picture of Ghost. I'm like, this shit is hella weird. And I'm like, how does she not read the room? But whatever. Braden comes up and Braden's like, do you want to get out of here? He's like, yeah, let's go and get go to that party you were talking about. Did I mention the party? I probably didn't. So then we see Monet. So Monet was talking to Diana and she was asking her, what does she think that they should do with Frank? She said, Diana says that she feels like they should give Frank the benefit of the doubt. And Monet says not everyone is to be trusted, which that is 100% correct. Not everyone is to be trusted. Now, this is where I got a little confused with the episode because it felt like Monet, because they were talking about Uncle Frank, but when Monet was talking about using, the way he looks at you to your advantage, I'm like, are you telling your daughter to pimp herself for her uncle? I was confused. I'm like, that is nasty. Is that what she was saying? So then Kane comes back and he says that Tariq said that, Frank is a rat. And, Monet goes in there and wakes up Zeke, asking Zeke, what does he know about Tariq? He says, I don't know nothing about him. She says, we need to learn about him. I'm like, oh, okay, I like Monet. I'm thinking about Real Housewives of Potomac, you guys, sorry. So then Tariq and Brayden, so they go to the party. It's a frat party. It's in a house, a lot of noise. It's loud. The cops show up. Brayden's brother goes to the door, answers it. The cops tell him they got to shut the party down. He tells them, do you guys know who I am? Then he punches one of them, and they were about to arrest him. And then Brayden comes out and says, I apologize for my brother. And he tells them who they are. And the lady cop was like, yeah, let him go. Although he was an ass. He deserved to go to jail. So then over at the jail, we see that Tasha is listening to this inmate who was talking to that rude ass guard, asking her for a morning after pill. I'm like, ugh, so you fucked one of the COs, huh? And you're pregnant. Now, no shade to the woman. She didn't even look like she was. Never mind. I'm gonna shut up and move on with my life. Moving on. All right, you guys. So next we see Davis. So Davis is in case in court, well, in the judge's chambers with Saxe, and he's pleading, that this whole thing is basically a setup because he's talking about the fact that Saxe used a DA to trap Tasha into a baseless queen pin charge, and he feels that, like I said, he feels that this is staged. He felt like all this was staged to turn it into a federal case. Which, I mean, it could be. So now what they're going to do is they're going to bring the DA, the prosecutor, back in and have her on the stand. So then over at the funeral, we see Simon and we saw Rashad Tate. I'm like, wow, where did this grimy ass nigga come from? So Davis tells Tariq that, he's off the hook for doing the eulogy because Tasha's going to show up. And when Tasha showed up, that outfit she had on was bad as fuck. So, they put the handcuffs on Tasha and, Dave was like, that's a little bit excessive. But I mean, she is a fugitive, so, well, not a fugitive. She's an inmate. I don't know why I said fugitive. She's an inmate. And I mean, you better be safe than sorry. So then James' Uncle Gabe shows up and, he's talking good things about Ghost to Tariq. He's telling Tariq that he reminds him a lot of his dad. And then we see Tariq. So Tariq gets up and he gives the eulogy. Now, I didn't know what to expect with this eulogy from Tariq, but Tariq got up and said, he's just, at this point, he's still learning stuff about his dad, even in death. But he says, some people want me to say good stuff about my dad. Other people want me to say bad stuff about my dad, but I can't do either one. So then after the funeral is over with, Tasha gets up to Tariq and she tells Tariq, like, hey, I need a morning after pill as currency with another inmate. So then we see Sullivan. She is in front of the judge with Saxe and Davis. Now Davis, he asked her if she knew who Tommy was. She said no, she didn't know who Tommy was. He asked her if she shared, his name with anyone else. She said, I shared it with my boss who may have told it to Steve from the DNC. And he asked her, well, did Steve ask you to vacate the deal that you and I signed for Tasha? She says, no, he told me to go forward with it, but, but asked the question of why did Tommy do it? So then Davis asked, well, if she knew it was going to be, he asked her if she knew it was going to be federal charges. She says no. She says she didn't know anything until Saxe came into the courtroom with that warrant, and that's when she knew that both Davis and her had been played. Is that correct? Yeah. So then Saxfeld says to the judge, because the judge turned to him and questioned him, he says that, he feels that Tasha is the queen pin and that he can prove it. And he calls to the stand Blanca Rodriguez. I was like, oh God, not that voice again. I literally thought we had saw the last of Blanca Rodriguez. Oh my fucking God, Blanca fucking Rodriguez. Blanca. It's bad enough I gotta look at Sax, but now I'm gonna have to look at Blanca for a little bit longer. Like, Jesus, be a fence, shoot me in the foot, do something. Cause God, Blanca? The fuck? But let's move on. All right, you guys. So then Blanca's on the stand. So Sax asked Blanca, did they investigate, the St. Patrick family together? She says yes. And we also investigated their associate Tommy Egan. He said yes or no questions. Yes. So then he asked her, did Tasha have reason to believe that Terry Silva might testify against her or her husband or Tommy? She says yes. What did she say? She says yes. She thought he had information, but she didn't kill him. And so he asked her, did she lead us to the body? She says yes, she did. She said, okay. Oh, she says, okay, here she go. She says, yes, but that is not the whole story. Tasha is not capable of murder. I'm just like, so she did not commit the murder. He asked her, well, do you think that she may have been able to put the hit on him? And she says, yes. So then the judge denies the motion that, Davis has set forward. So then after this, she goes up to Sax and says, not Sax, but it goes up to Davis and tells him, when this goes to trial, make sure that I testify. Tasha is no queen pin, and Sax is dirty as fuck. I was like, God, I have to listen to this voice again. Jesus, help me. So then Kane. We see Kane, he finds Uncle Frank at a bar, and Kane went up behind him and boom, knocked his ass out. They drug him to the basement and pop, pop, pop. He shot him. I'm like, well, damn. At least the nigga was knocked out, so he probably didn't feel that death. He was unconscious, so he didn't really feel it. Then they start to chop the man's body up and put him into look like kegs. I'm like, oh wow, this is even worse. Jesus. So then we see a Diana. So Diana goes to Tariq's dorm room. She wants to ask him, how did he know that Frank was a rat? He says when you're looking for something for a person, they're easy to read. He asked her if she has a way to talk to her dad in prison because he needs to get something to Tasha. So then she takes that information back to Monet. And then we see Tasha. Tasha goes into her cell. There's the book that Tariq has been reading with the cell phone in there and one of the morning after pills. So Tasha calls him. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, so no one can hear that Tasha is talking on the phone. Like, literally, her voice was carrying throughout the prison. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to let it go. So she's asking him, how did he get the money? Girl, you know how he got the money. I don't know, he asking that dumbass question. So then we see that Kane is outside of the house. And Ramirez shows up and Kane drives off. So Ramirez goes into the house and he gives Monet the papers about Frank. And Monet is upset because he's just now giving her this information. And she's like, what am I supposed to do with this now? He says, well, I just found out about this stuff. So she tells him, he's like, what do I got to do to make this right with you? She says, what you can do is find out anything you can about Tariq St. Patrick. And I was like, uh-oh. It's going to be trouble. But you guys, that was Power Book 2 Ghost. Interesting title for the show. Really interesting title for the show. They couldn't come up with a different name besides Ghost, but whatever. That was the review. Be sure to like this video, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification button so you guys are aware of when I drop anything else. Share this video. And until the next one, you guys, do me a solid favor. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Stay hydrated. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.